Good, Town Corner. I too actually, speaking in Amendment 5 and indeed 12, and I actually am not in favour of them. I honestly believe that public PPPs have worked quite well, and big isn't always wonderful, and maybe for the bigger projects there have been problems. And I'd like to ask the deputies here that are, you know, and I agree with them in some amendments, but if any of them ever got involved themselves in voluntary co-ops or voluntary housing committees and rolled up the sleeves and did a bit of work and set up those schemes. I'm not blowing my own trumpet here, but I and a group of elderly people, not elderly people, they're elderly now, back in 1990, after a horrific robbery of a man, got together and formed a voluntary housing association. And I want to salute from the bottom of my heart Donald McManus and the ICSH and other staff there, and Tipperary County Council of Health at the time. And we built 14 houses, and we built further 3 in for people with disabilities later on. And we did that. And if every village and community did that, and we tendered the process, and we hadn't one expert or qualified person as such on it. We had an engineer or an architect or a doctor or a professor of any kind. We're only lay people with a small bit of common sense and an enthusiasm to get people housed, especially over 55s, we can't find it, and in special needs were any age for the 3 afterwards. And all 2 beds, lovely building, and the president at the time came down and opened them for us. But we tendered in and we got local builders. So unfortunately, inadvertently, Deputy by Barrett and others, you are defying and denying local builders, small one-man operation or with a couple of subbies or maybe a small builder with 8 or 10 people working. The actual effect of some of the amendments you have is denying those people their work. I'm not talking about the BAMs who have the Children's Hospital fiasco or the people like that. I'm talking about people of the community and from the community with the expertise, and then people building these in private public partnership. And also some of the schools that I've been involved in when I was in the VEC and others, they would never have the schools. We waited 30 years for some, and there's a new extension started now in Lismore, only 15 miles out the road from me, County Waterford. A massive school, wouldn't have been built only for they went to public-private partnership, and the pressure is taken off the teachers, managers, because they now have, you know, the lease from them. They look after the light bulbs and everything else, the roof and the floor, and the teachers can solely concentrate on the education and the further advancement of the Nadina Oge, the pupils, Nadalti. So look, I mean, we can't have just ideological hang-ups about it, because I'd ask you, and you might let us know how many are involved in housing associations and how many houses you got built or involved in building them, because we can't be blaming the might of the state all the time, and the big bad brother. There's huge log jams, as I said earlier in my contribution, massive log jams and delays and bureaucracy involved, certainly is, and it's grown up since about the 80s really. Before that they were able to build hundreds of houses in every county every year, and they had no equipment. They had no cranes, and they had no massive laser levels and all the kind of equipment they have now. They just had the shovel and the trowel and the mortar and the bag of cement and maybe a mixer. Maybe some of them had a mixer, mixed it by hand, and there was no pyrite either. And there was no none of that micro effects, and there was oversight, and there was no greed, you see. So I agree with you on certain areas, but I said we have to have a dolly mixture, we have to have a reasonable mix where we allow and enable communities and voluntary boards to go and build, get the sites wherever they can. You know, we got it at a nominal price, in fairness, from the Tipperdorn at the time. Tipperdorn has. We did, indeed. And I can contrast it, and I've said this before. In the same field, we built the complex there, we hired in an engineer, one Liam Long at the time, and he did a wonderful design. Architect did the whole lot. We don't have a step in the complex of 14 houses. In the same field, the council built, I think, roughly 14. We built them in 18 months and opened them. The council gave 6 years building them. 3 or 4 contractors went bust in the middle of them, and there were roofs for 3 or 4 winters. And they have 13 and 11. I wouldn't even call them steps. There are obnoxious things inside in the building for elderly people. It's a mix of elderly and young people. So a lot can be learned from the community, and the voluntary housing, the small ones. I will agree that some of the big ones in Clues and Fushkin, I don't want to name more than others, they got very big, and I was on the Irish Council of Social Housing. I very much enjoyed my time there as a board member, but it did then, like with the Celtic Tiger, these bigger housing bodies grew up and they kind of diminished the role of the smaller ones, and there was a battle there, and unfortunately the smaller ones didn't win. But look, they have a role, a very important role to play in delivery houses. And I have a very good friend of mine, John Simpson in Cardigan East Kent. He is involved with different local authority housing bodies, and I could name them, but I won't. And many more like him, and they're building and delivering houses, and delivering them on time, and in very, very good condition. Now this rival here that they're not finished properly, they're not snagged right, they're snagged perfectly, and they're built faster, and they're snagged better, and the snag list is attended to by the people who have them, because it's in their interest to have them built right, it's in their interest to have them maintained, and it's in their interest to have everything seen to in speedy time. We have council properties, and you might wait 5 years to get a small repairs done, or to get a leak in the attic done, or to get a leak in the tank and all the damage it does, which is the water going through the pipes, and it's very hard to get them to do it. So there's a need here for balance, and certainly I cannot support these amendments because I'm supporting the Minister on this. He might be surprised, but I am supporting him on this because I do agree with him, and I said we need the mixture. Thank you.